I'm Stacy.
Hey, I'm Steph.
Welcome to Harnessing Your Power,
where we discuss everyday topics to break through the stigma and harness our power through self-mastery.
Tune in every Tuesday to join us in conversation as we dig deep into our minds and get closer and closer to our highest self. Hello, thank you to everyone who just joined. How's everyone doing? How are you, Steph?
I am doing amazing. I'm extremely excited for today. How are you?
I am also doing amazing. I'm really excited for today too. I've had a really busy day and this came faster than I realized, and I'm super excited to talk about this.
Me too.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just get started. Yeah. And if you're late to this, rewind it and watch it.
Yes.
When we post it later. So if you guys saw the flyer today, we are talking about the power of accountability. I'm really excited to talk about this one. I actually was not sure what we would talk about this week, and then Steph mentioned a few different things, and she said accountability, and I was like, yes, because I need this conversation to remind myself, and I think it's really relevant to what a lot of us are experiencing these last few months in a lot of different ways. So I'm super excited to talk about this, and to start it with our usual little intro, we want to ask you guys what accountability means to you.
I'm excited to get some of these feedbacks because I feel like after preparing for this live, I feel like accountability means something different to me now. So
yeah, same. I feel like I've gone through different phases of thinking about what it means throughout this day. So I'm interested to hear. Hi to everyone that just joined. We just asked you guys to tell us what accountability means to you, or what you think about when you hear accountability or being accountable. While we wait for some responses, what does it mean to you, Steph?
So I feel like accountability was always just like, all right, I need to hold myself to a certain standard. I need to be responsible. I need to, hold myself to the standard to get things done. And I feel like after looking at, and we can talk about it, but looking at different parts of accountability, it's more than just holding yourself to a standard, but could also be, accountability could also be a type of love language. And we can definitely get into that. But what does accountability mean to you?
Interesting. Yeah. There's definitely a lot of layers to accountability. And
so much.
Really a lot of ways you could take it. But in general, what it means to me is kind of similar, just having responsibility of your actions. That's interesting that you said about kind of holding yourself to a standard, because I never thought about it in that way. But that also makes sense. And I guess to me, it's kind of the same thing, but it's just to my own standards. So like my own responsibility of all of my actions and all of my thoughts or whatever it might be.
I think we've talked before about like being in integrity with yourself and like literally following through with the thing that you said that you're going to do. Or like even I had listened to a podcast recently, and she was saying, and being in integrity with yourself is not necessarily always doing what you say you're going to do, but also feeling like you want that. And like if you are not feeling, I think the example she used was, let's say you said you were going to go to your friend's party, and you said you were going to stay the whole night through, and you did go and you did stay the whole night through. However, you were not enjoying it. You were not there happily. You did not want to be there. Then you're still out of integrity with yourself. And I thought that was really interesting.
That is really interesting. And that's kind of related to something I thought about when I was thinking about accountability. I was like, accountability really is both saying what you mean and meaning what you say, and really embodying that. And that's the same thing. So it's not just saying you're going to stay at the party and following through with that, but meaning it because you want to. So that's really interesting. I kind of want to break down the multiple different faces of accountability. Where should we start? Self-accountability or?
wherever you want to start, I'm down to start with self accountability. I feel like that's like the biggest
Like
part.
it really is. And when I was thinking about it, I couldn't really think beyond self accountability at first. I was like, that's the same thing to me. And I'm excited to talk about the other parts, but the real main example where I have seen myself have to like push to have more self accountability, and what I think can be really relatable is this transition to entrepreneurship. And for a lot of people, even a transition to working from home. Even if you are having an outside job, but you're now working from home, that is such a clear example to see how our self accountability comes into play. If you have to clock into a job at 9 a.m., you're going to be there at 9 a.m. Or your boss is going to know you were late. It's going to be on your pay record that you were late. If you're an entrepreneur, or even if you're working from home, maybe your goal is to start your day at 9 a.m. or you're supposed to, but who's going to know if you sleep in? If you're working from home and you don't have a meeting till noon, who's going to know if you didn't get up until 11:55?
I feel this one.
Like that. And literally relating it down to getting out of bed, since a lot of people have been spending a lot more time in their home, and now kind of, for me personally, my resting place is completely merged with my workspace. So being able to mentally get to another space while I'm physically in the same spot has just required a lot of self-motivation and self-accountability. To be honest, this entire week, I was supposed to get up at 6:30 a.m. and I got up at 8 a.m. every day. So, I'm holding myself accountable. I'm seeing where the different aspects of my goals are now going to be a little bit delayed because of that. But sometimes it's a little harder for that to resonate versus someone else telling you. If you're late to your job you have to clock in for, you might lose your job. So you're not going to be late versus trying to find, your own motivation.
I think that's really where entrepreneurship becomes like, when people say entrepreneurship isn't for the lighthearted, like, it really isn't, because you literally have to be your own boss, your own accountability partner. And while you have, like, obviously we have accountability partners all around, I feel like you've definitely held me accountable to a lot of things. Like even this live, like, holds us accountable to being here weekly. But if you don't want to do something, you don't have to. And while that's amazing, it could also be a downfall. And something that I was listening to was, everybody knows that our actions have consequences, but also inaction has just as much consequence. And I was like, oh, I was like, yes, like not doing the things you're supposed to do can have probably an even bigger consequence than actually the action.
Yeah. That's like my favorite phrase of the last 6 months. Like, always making sure you're doing what's easy to do and what's easy not to do.
Yes.
And that's the same thing. It would have, been easier if I woke up on time this week, so I would have been more on track for my goals, and now I wouldn't have to work on the weekend. But it was also easy to sleep in. And, it's just that that give and take, but really finding that internal motivation is what can be really difficult, because beyond just work, but our whole life we're kind of conditioned to be doing something because it's expected of us, right? Like from our parents, from our teachers, from our coach, from our, maybe like a gym trainer or something. So you're going to show up to the gym if you paid a trainer for a session and they're waiting for you. You're going to show up to practice if your coach is waiting for you, and you're going to get kicked off the team if you don't show up. But what about those skills and those things you still want to do and you want to learn, and you don't have that coach right there? Accountability partners are a great thing. And sometimes we get them by accident just because we tell people our plans before we even start. So then we have to prove ourselves. But I don't even know where I was just going. But yeah, really just that external motivator, not having that and still getting your things done that you need to and that you want to further your goals.
When it comes to self-accountability, so I don't know if you already saw it. I wanted to ask you earlier, but I really wanted to do it on the live because Maya and Lo had a question on their story, and it was, what is holding you back? And it was there was A, B, C, or D. And if you guys are on here, please answer as well. If you want to take a second, Stacy, I will wait. But it's, what is holding you back? Answer A is myself. Answer B is family. Answer C is nothing. Answer D is environment.
I feel like this is a good question to start your day with every day, because today I'm going to say nothing. Because today I'm feeling amazing. I have been grinding this week to finish out my classes, to launch my business. I'm saying all this live. Yes. It's coming. With trading, with so many different things, I've made more progress this week than I have in the last few months. So today I'm feeling like nothing's holding me back.
I love that. So when I answered it, my first instinct was, how many times, like, have you heard somebody say nothing's holding you back for yourself? Or like, you know, I'm the only person that can stop me. But really, when we think about it, why are we letting ourselves stop us? Like, I'm so happy that you answered nothing, because my initial reaction was myself. Like, nothing else can stop me except me. Like, why would my environment or family stop me? But I didn't stop to think, nothing is stopping me. And I feel like the fact that, and I've asked a few people, I've sent it out so that they could see the text, and like, you can see all the answers, and people's first reactions is always myself.
So yeah, that's what I was thinking, except just not this week, because I'm feeling so powerful this week.
Yes, I love that.
Last week I probably would have said myself. And that's interesting, because I'm surprised not that many people said, you know, their family or friends.
Okay. I mean, at least the people that I've asked, I don't know, like, I think Maya had posted like the answers that she had gotten, and I think some people did. But when it came like to, she answered myself. Yes. I literally answered myself, and I was like, the fact that I answered myself already says so much. And I was like, wow, that was like a big realization for me. I was like, why am I letting myself hold myself?
Yeah, that's, you know, like, would you block that same blessing from someone else? And this is where I have start to sometimes treat myself not like myself when I'm working or I'm in like a creative environment, because sometimes I have an idea, or, you know, something happens and I'm like, that was so stupid. You know, you just start having that negative self-talk and that disbelief. But then I stop to think, like, if this was a coworker, how would I have reacted? I would have fully supported it, you know? Yes. So why are we so inclined to like block ourselves and stop ourselves? And I feel like that's where accountability can really come in and take that awareness a step further. Because the first step is, you know, why are you blaming yourself for things not happening? Why are you blocking your blessings? Or for the people who said other people or the environment, why are you blaming that when it's just the lack of you taking the action, or whatever it is that, you know, that little piece that you're missing? That's the problem. So the first step is having the awareness to recognize that, and then the accountability to like follow through.
I love that you said the first step, because so prior to this, I was like, okay, I know you mentioned that self-accountability was like the first thing that came to mind. But I feel like when you end up in positions where you also have to hold other people accountable, I feel like having those accountability talks, having those talks with people where you kind of have to tell them, or even like vice versa, where you have to be told, you know, about yourself, or be the elephant in the room has to be spoken about. I feel like it's a little not the best conversation. It's not the conversation that people look forward to having. But as I was doing some research, I was like, okay, well, what is the best way to hold somebody accountable? What is, you know, the best way to go about it? And I wrote down some stuff, so I do have my notes, but accountability is a love language. And I came across that, and I truly, like, it changed my perspective on accountability, because it's checking the elephant in the room with kindness, but also sternness. It's, hey, saying, I care enough about you to hold you accountable. I care enough about you to walk the journey of improvement with you.
Mm.
And I feel like that spoke so much to me, because how many times are we held accountable by somebody and we just don't want to hear it, and we're like, no. Or like a lot of the times it's somebody, you know, when you're holding somebody accountable, sometimes it almost sounds like an accusation. And
Right.
instead of coming with an accusation, the first question would be, what happened? And instead of you answering the question for that person, literally giving them the space to answer that, so that there is no judgment, there is no defensiveness. It's just, oh, I love the comments. There is no defensiveness. It's literally just what happened, giving the space for the other person to answer that, leaving room for conversation.
For them to get that awareness.
Yes.
First.
And then what's the plan? Instead of leaving it as, hey, I'm holding you accountable, what's the plan? What are we doing to move forward?
How are you going to fix that? Yeah.
Exactly. And when I first heard that, I was like, I started thinking back to all these times I was held accountable that I just didn't want to hear it. And I was like, wow, like, really, who's going to hold you accountable? It's the people that love you. It's the people that want to see you succeed. So why do we get defensive about those things?
Right. That was amazing, and that really broke down a great way to have those conversations with other people and to be more willing and absorbing if someone has that conversation with you. And that still ties back into in the situations of self accountability as well, because you know, you're not getting the result you want. So it's the awareness of figuring out why and then doing something to change it. And if your ego is just going to be defensive to someone else or to yourself, you're not going to get that awareness, you're not going to get that accountability and that ability to grow and solve it. And you're just going to keep in this cycle of not getting the result you want. That's really interesting. Yeah.
I love that you said it ties in together, because it's really like, hey, if you're holding your own self accountable and you're just like, I feel like when we hold ourselves accountable, if there's things we haven't been doing, it's really thinking back to like, oh, well, there's this big list of things that I have to do, or like there's all these things that I have to accomplish. But I feel like it genuinely is loving yourself enough to point that out. And if you were on a slippery slope and somebody paused the screen and showed you that you were on a slippery slope, would you not feel loved? And when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, yes, I would feel loved. You're saving me from falling, or I'm saving myself by holding myself accountable from falling. So I feel like accountability holds so much power to just making ourselves better.
Yeah. Can you put things in order before they exist? Thanks, Kayla. Yeah, it really is. And that's where it relates back to what I just briefly said, that it's an ego check. Having accountability is an ego check, because it's our ego that gets defensive and wants to protect our little feelings, versus our higher self that's willing to grow and see beyond that and see that this person isn't attacking you, or see that I'm not attacking myself, and I'm not a bad person because I slept in today, but I'm going to have to make some changes, and I'm going to have to work this weekend, and then hold myself accountable and actually work this weekend.
Yeah.
One quote that I read that I definitely wanted to say about accountability was that it is continually choosing consciously to take ownership of your life. So, like you mentioned, it's like honoring yourself and loving yourself and being honest with yourself and taking those choices and harnessing that power to really take control of your life.
I love that.
Accountability and ownership.
Yes, we all need it. And I feel like, hey, it's something I feel like we all need to work on. But once you have the awareness that it's something you need to work on, I feel like it all gets better from there. And we did hit like a 20-minute mark. I know we are striving to keep these around that time, and not take too much of anybody's time, so that also people can watch these recordings. But I enjoy these talks every single time.
Yeah, like I said, I was really looking forward to this one because it was something I've become more aware with my own life, and something I haven't really diving into and thought that much. Like I said, I really just thought about the self aspect, but you brought a whole new level to it about the accountability discussions. And even those discussions with yourself, like,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, the only last thing I was going to say about it was just relating both accountability and responsibility to the root words that they are. Accountability literally being accountability. So your ability to take account for the situation or for your actions, and responsibility literally being responsibility, your ability to respond and to make these choices and decisions of how you want your life to go. Something I was briefly reading broke that down, and it talked about how these are innate human abilities that we have, and that whether we want to or not, we have this responsibility and we have this accountability. It's just about if we're consciously aware of this. So bringing that into your consciousness is how you're able to harness those power of both those words and both those types of traits and mindsets, and bring it into everywhere in your life. That just like blew my mind, like it's blowing your minds.
Yes, I love that. And everybody else is loving it too. I genuinely I appreciate that you literally, and I feel like we do a good job of like bouncing back and forth, but you literally break everything down to like the smallest of, and just giving the actual definition. And I truly appreciate that.
Aw, thank you. For some people that just hopped on, Steph, could you repeat the question you asked me one time just to end it? And
Yes.
I know Ash and a few other people might have answered, but if you didn't, answer in the chat, or at least answer to yourself. Really
Yes.
let it sink in.
So what is it that's holding you back? A, myself or yourself. B, family. C, nothing. Or D, environment.
Let's see if anyone answers, but it's okay if not. Just really yeah. I'm almost at a loss for words from that question.
Honestly, as soon as I answered it, and
yourself, exactly.
As soon as I answered it myself, and I saw that it could literally be nothing, I was like, oh, I needed to hear that. And I needed to know that, hey, if you're already thinking that yourself is what's holding you back, why are we letting ourselves hold us back from our greatness?
Yeah. Wow. That was a beautiful last statement. Why are we holding ourselves back from our greatness? Literally. On that note, thank you everyone who tuned in. If you just joined, make sure to watch it. I'll be posting it on my Instagram shortly. And thank you so much, Steph, as always, for doing these with me. This is like my third time saying it, but I was really excited for this one because it really expanded my mind a lot on my perspective of accountability and how I'm going to bring it into my life. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thank you, and thank everyone for hopping on. I appreciate you, Stacy, and I appreciate everybody who's on. Have a great night, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.